Okay, we have no introduction.
Undoubtedly, Africa is the best tourism destination on Earth. The continent is blessed with the most conducive atmosphere. To feel and enjoy these blessings, join the most productive one-week tour of the continent organized by Daylight Africa every September 2nd to September 9th to see beyond the fallacies about Africa on the mainstream media. Contact us at daylightafrica@gmail.com or call 718-822-5555. Daylight Africa. Revolutionizing tourism industries in Africa.
Okay, now we're live. Welcome to Talking Politics. My name is Robert Press, your host. I write for the Bronx Chronicle, as you can see by my official New York City press card. I also contribute to the Co-op City News, Parkchester Times, where I was the moderator of the 2017 14th congressional race debate, which put in our new assemblywoman, our new congressional woman back then, Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez, and this show is part of Muslim media. The weather today, let's go right into the weather. We had rain this morning, which ended about 10 o'clock, if not earlier. Temperature will be in the mid 80s right now and throughout the day. Saturday will be in the low 80s if it gets to 80. And Sunday will be the best day in the high 80s, continuing into next week with a beautiful Monday. Now, let's get into politics. There is another indictment of Donald Trump, his fourth, but also this time there are 19 co-conspirators on various counts for a total of 41 counts. The district attorney in Georgia is using something that hasn't been used in these type of cases against Donald Trump. It's something that Rudy Giuliani used to get rid of the mobsters in New York City. It was called the RICO statute, and it's being used in a state court. So none of the indictees, the president and the other 19, can be pardoned by the president should he win election in 2025 next year, that being Donald Trump. Now let's get into the indictment. It's 95 pages. It's the state of Georgia versus Donald J. Trump, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, John Merlis Eastman, Mark Randall Meadows, Kenneth John Cheeseborough, Jeffrey Bossert Clark, Jenna Lynn Ellis, Ray Starling Smith III, Robert David Cheerley, Michaela Romick, David James Schaefer, Sean Micah Tresh Still, Stephen Cliffgard Lee, Harrison William Prescott Floyd, Trevin C. Cutt, that's K-U-T-T, Sidney Catherine Powell, Kathleen Alston Lathia, Scott Graham Hall, and Misty Hampton, a.k.a. Emily Misty Hayes. Now, they range, there's 41 counts, and Donald Trump has the most, 13 counts against him. Rudy Giuliani has 11, and various people have either 2, 3, 4, up to 10 different counts. Now, I'm going to quickly read through the counts. Count 1 is violation of the Georgia RICO, Racketeering, Influence, and Corruption Organization Act. Count 2 is solicitation of violation of oath by public officer. Count 3, which you'll hear several times, which is also count 4, false statements and writings. It's various different false statements and writings compared to different co-defendants. Solicitation, violation, oath by public officer. Again, that's count 5 and 6. We go to false statements, again, count 7. Count 8, impersonating a public officer. Count 9, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer. Count 10 is forgery in first degree. Count 11, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree. Count 12, again, is false statements and writings. Count 13, conspiracy to commit false statement and writings. This is basically what most of the indictment counts are. As I continue down, False statements and writings are about 10 different counts in here. Conspiracy to commit election fraud, there's 5 counts of that, various different sections. And the last count is perjury, which is interesting. The DA has asked for a March 4th trial date, with Trump and Giuliani set to surrender in September in there. Now, besides Donald Trump, there's another Republican that's in big trouble, and that's George Santos. He missed his August 13th deadline to file his latest campaign finance disclosure statement, of which he was given a 90-day extension. He finally filed it, and it appears that Mr. Santos brought in $162,031.52 in the last 3 months ending June 30th, 2023. However, in May, George Santos was indicted on 13 federal counts in the Eastern District of New York, including 7 counts of wire fraud and 3 counts of money laundering. He has pled not guilty and refused calls by Democrats and some Republicans in Congress to resign. He also faces an investigation by the House Ethics Committee, which House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has said will determine whether he remains in Congress. It appears that the field of candidates looking to take down scandal-plagued George Santos in the 3rd Congressional District of New York continues to grow. On Monday, Zach Malamed became the latest to throw his hat in the ring, or I should say that was as of Monday. The 29-year-old Democrat is a native of the district, which includes parts of Queens and Nassau counties. Last week, another candidate jumped into the race, Democrat Anna Kaplan, the former state senator who was born in Iran and fled as a teenager. Nassau County legislator Josh Lefazan also declared his candidacy, as has St. John's University professor Will Murphy, who is making his first run for office. Now, when we go on to the Republican side, GOP challenger Kellene Curry, a veteran who worked for J.P. Morgan, has announced a bid for Sanders' seat. Just Monday, Mike this one's going to be good, Saparico Coney, a retired New York City detective and private security honcho with deep ties to Nassau County, announced his bid on Monday. On Tuesday, this past week, veteran Air Force and attorney Greg Hock announced he is running to represent New York's 3rd Congressional District in 2024. Also in the past, Republican Philip Grillo, a Queens resident who was charged for his involvement during the January 6th Capitol riot, has announced a challenge to George Santos. And the field could grow even more with reports that Robert Zimmerman, the Democrat who lost to Santos in 2022, and former Congressman Tom Suozzi are weighing their own bids. And unless the district lines are changed, since Democrats have challenged the court-appointed masters' congressional lines that were drawn for the 2022 election, should the district lines change, the number of people running for that seat could be increased by several. Now, as far as George Santos goes, the federal government has indicted a paid fundraiser for him for allegedly impersonating Speaker McCarthy's aide. A man who was a paid consultant fundraiser for Republican Representative George Santos, was indicted in New York on federal charges related to his allegedly impersonating a top aide to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The fundraiser, Samuel Mealy, was charged with 4 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of aggravated identity theft, according to the indictment in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York. And it was reported in January that Mealy had made calls and sent emails to would-be donors while claiming to be Dan Mayer and McCarthy's chief of staff during 2022 and 2020 election cycles, when Mealy was raising funds for Santos's House campaign. Now, something else you need to worry about is an item called Vibrio vulnicis bacteria. Governor Hochul has ordered precautions, and this is what it's all about. The New York State Department of Health has issued guidelines to providers on best practices to treat and identify cases of Vibrio vulnicis bacteria, which can cause skin breakdowns and ulcers and it has been identified in a recently deceased individual from Suffolk County and a person from Connecticut. Governor Hochul said that it is a rare but potentially fatal bacteria infection that can cause skin breakdown and ulcers, as I said. And she urged New Yorkers to learn how to avoid exposure and to take appropriate precautions, as the New York State Department of Health reminded providers about this. While rare, the vibrobacteria has unfortunately made it to the region and can be extraordinarily dangerous, Governor Hochul said. As we investigate further, it is critical that all New Yorkers stay vibrant and take responsible precautions to keep themselves and their loved ones safe, including protecting open wounds from seawater for those with compromised immune systems, avoiding raw and uncooked shellfish, which may carry the bacteria. Fibrosis is caused by several species of bacteria, including the vibrobacteria, which occurs naturally in salt water. Protecting and loved ones should be safe, protecting open wounds from that salt water. It concentrates, basically, the higher concentrations are from May to October when the weather is warmer, and can be found in cause a range of symptoms when ingested, including diarrhea, stomach cramps, vomiting, fever, and chills. Exposure can also result in ear infections and cause herpes and threatening wound infections. So anybody who feels that they have this should get treated immediately. Let's go to the immigration problem. We have sent some, New York City has sent some immigrants up to Erie County in Monroe, and Governor Hochul is now sending the National Guard to Monroe County at the request of their leaders. National Guard deployments for both Erie and Monroe counties at the request of local leaders, according to spokesman with Kathy Hochul's offices, comes more than 1,800 members of the state's armed forces were sent to New York City to help with logistical and operational support in what's being described as an asylum crisis downstate. Monroe County Executive Adam Bello issued a statement late Monday. He requested the National Guard following suit with Erie County officials after two separate instances where asylees that's asylum seekers, were accused of committing sexual assaults. Before the deployment was confirmed, Monroe County leader Mercedes Vasquez Simmons, who described feelings of shock and disappointment at the county executive's request for services as crime remains high in Rochester. Ms. Vasquez Simmons was on site at the Holiday Inn on State Street last week when the first round of immigrants arrived. She explained an encounter with an employee of DocGo, which was given a $432 million no-bid contract to handle the services of these asylum seekers upstate. And she said that one of the employees tried to have her arrested for speaking with some families until a bystander explained that she's a county legislator. Conversations I've had with some families, they say they want to go back to their home country. Apparently, again, they've gone from California. They've been shipped all over. Zero communication. She had no idea where she was when she asked one woman, where am I? I literally had to show her a map where she was. She had no idea. She was like, oh, we're not in the Bronx. She was just confused. Most of the families, the same thing. They just told us, get on the bus, said the legislator Vasquez Simmons. Now, I'm interested in the we're not in the Bronx comment because, why would the woman say we're not in the Bronx? And I'm going to stop here now and go to a commercial. When I come back, we'll talk a little bit more about how the Adams administration is handling the asylum crisis. So let's go to a commercial right now.
Do you wish your business makes it to the top list of the most searched for business in the US and around the world? Or are you searching for halal compliant services and products online? Then Halal Finder is your online resource directory, pointing you to the right places and products. Let's help you explore halal products and services of your choice as we manage many halal businesses across the world. Promote your business with halalfinder.com, the only plug you need to grow. Our services include business listing, digital marketing, branding strategy, SEO campaigns, crowdfunding, and humanitarian support. On our Compassion Corner, we offer crowdfunding of halal ventures and humanitarian services. In this section, you can make or receive donations, start donation campaign, and check existing donation campaigns. And by paying zakat and sadaqah to our Compassion platform on halalfinder.com, you have supported the poor, widows or widowers, orphans, and the likes around the world. Contact us at info@halalfinder.com or call +1 718 822 5555. Get started today at halalfinder.com.
Okay, welcome back. Now, let's talk a little bit about what the Adams administration is doing with the asylum crisis. It appears that there has been a problem, a little rift with the governor's office and the mayor's office. There was a letter from the state alleging a lack of coordination from the city in some aspects of its handling of the crisis. The state offered 20 different sites, but the city said they weren't livable or usable. And it appears that Mayor Adams, at a briefing, his communications director reiterated Mayor Adams' comment earlier in the day that there isn't tension with the state. But it appears the city has attempted to send asylum seekers to other counties in the state, and roughly 1,500 have been moved outside the city. But dozens of counties have issued executive orders to block the city from doing that. And it appears that Governor Hochul is going to have to do a little more to get the asylum seekers into these counties upstate, where the state should be taking care of more of these people rather than just the city. And Mayor Adams has announced that the city has provided shelter and care for more than 101,200 asylum seekers that have arrived in the 5 boroughs since April of 2022. He's said that they are asking for shelter, and the city has provided shelter and care for more migrants since last year than there are people in Albany, said Mayor Adams. Our teams of thousands of dedicated public servants are working around the clock in absence of sufficient state and federal support and have pulled off miracles. On August 13th, he said that the 101,200 asylum seekers have come through New York City shelter system, and over 58,500 remain in New York City's care. A total shelter population currently sits at 110,200, more than double when it was when Mayor Adams took office, including longtime unhoused New Yorkers. In the past week alone, it said that more than 2,700 asylum seekers have arrived in New York City. What he wants to do, Mayor Adams, is implement a statewide decompression strategy to ensure each county is doing its part to assist with the humanitarian crisis. He wants to increase the number of state-run and state-provided sites, provide additional funding to help the city with the cost already incurred by the crisis from the state and federal government. And he also reiterated that he's asking the federal government to help manage the crisis, including, among other things, expediting work authorizations for asylum seekers so they can move expeditiously to secure employment, declaring a state of emergency to manage the crisis at the border, providing more federal reimbursement for costs incurred by the city, and implementing a federal decompression strategy to ensure a flow of asylum seekers arrivals are fairly distributed. And New York City is just getting swallowed up. As I said last week, the mayor predicts it'll cost $12 billion by 2025. Going into a different subject, there is a bill that would largely shift the burden of paying broker fees from renters to landlords. It has locked in support from a majority of the city council, including, this is a bill that was introduced in June by left-leaning Brooklyn Councilman Chi Asi. It would not ban broker fees outright. Rather, it would require that whoever hires a broker pays his or her fees. If you're currently looking for an apartment, you sometimes have to go to a broker or a real estate agent, and they will charge you normally a month's rent or more. And the renter pays it. Now, on Wednesday, Ossie, whose legislation is dubbed the Fair Act, told the Daily News that 25 of his Democratic colleagues in the council have signed up as co-sponsors. Now, the announcement comes as the Real Estate Board of New York, which represents hundreds of landlords and broker firms in the city, is in the midst of a full court press to advocate against the bill, citing concerns that it would be bad for both renters and brokers. In a previously unknown wrinkle, the politically powerful board struck a private deal with Bronx Councilwoman Marjorie Velazquez earlier this summer, where she committed to block the bill from being heard in the Consumer and Worker Protection Committee, which she heads, according to sources familiar with the discussions, who spoke on condition of anonymity for fear of angering Velazquez. Rebbe has a warm relationship for years with Vasquez, who faces a fierce Republican challenger by the name of Christy Maramato in this November's general election. Vasquez gave Rebbe basically her assurance that she would slow down or stop this bill, according to sources of the news. If the legislation isn't scheduled for a committee hearing, it can be put up for a vote, meaning it dies in committee, the sources said. Velazquez, a centralist Democrat who represents part of the Eastern Bronx Richwood homeowners, disputed the notion that she made a deal with Rebbe. However, and let's find, she did not dispute the group's reps about the Ossie bill and confirmed she's not looking to hold a hearing at any time soon. That's a good question. I'll look at my calendar, but it's not this year, she told the news after an unrelated news conference in Bronx Wednesday when asked about her commitment to the legislation. Asked about her relationship with Ossie, she said, "We're good friends." Ryan Monell, Vice President of Governmental Affairs at Rebbe, would not comment specifically on the board's conversation with Velazquez, but said Rebbe has and will continue to engage thousands of agents to contact all city council members to oppose this problematic bill. Rebbe has extensive political ties to a number of council members, and Velazquez is among the group's top allies. Records filed with the city clerk's office show Rebbe has raised $11,500 for Velazquez's re-election campaign between July and August. While raising money for her campaign, Rebbe's in-house government relations firm was also lobbying Velazquez and a number of her colleagues, including Speaker Adams, on opposing Ossie's bill, records show. The board argued legislation would be bad for tenants and landlords, would shift the cost of brokers' fees, etc. Ossie has contended that in addition to helping renters, his bill would benefit brokers, especially those hired by tenants. As a result of resistance from Velazquez, Ossie is attempting to get this bill heard in the Housing and Buildings Committee instead, according to council insiders. Should Ossie's measure pass the council, it would likely still need Mayor Adams' support to become law. A spokesman for Adams said Wednesday his office is reviewing the bill. Now, speaking of Mayor Adams, he was in the Bronx this past Wednesday at the Havana Cafe, and in front of city council members from all over the city, he signed Intro 31-C into law, unveiling the Dining Out New York City, New York's permanent outdoor dining program, the largest dining program in the nation. Dining Out New York City represents one of the most significant efforts of the last decade to reimagine the city's streetscape to support all New Yorkers and small businesses while creating vibrant public spaces that improve the quality of life and continue to accelerate the city's recovery. Created during COVID-19 under the de Blasio administration during the pandemic, it saved 100,000 jobs across the city, but led to quality of life issues. A subset of restaurant owners were unable to maintain loosely regulated outdoor dining setups. Mayor Adams, though, said that outdoor dining is here to stay. New Yorkers were hungry for a cleaner, safer, healthier outdoor dining program, and we are delivering this one with Dining Out New York City. During the pandemic, people were not allowed to eat inside restaurants because of the pandemic, and that was the birth of the outdoor dining, where then Mayor de Blasio allowed street dining. Under the creation, though, of this new law by Mayor Adams, the Department of Transportation will work with partner agencies to develop proposed rules that establish design requirements as well as seating material, operational guidance, and here's the important one, cost per square foot. These rules will enter public review this fall. Under the new program, outdoor dining setups will be open air. They will no longer be enclosed. Easier to move in and break down. The city will no longer allow fully enclosed structures. Now, Intro 31C, the press conference and bill signing was held at the Havana Cafe on East Tremont Avenue. Councilwoman, which is in Councilwoman Marjorie Velazquez's district, and she was the prime sponsor of the bill. Councilwoman Vasquez said outdoor dining was a lifeline for our city during the pandemic, one that can be used as a foundation, not only for rebuilding and reimagining the food and restaurant industry, reinvigorating and stimulating New York City's economy throughout the 5 boroughs. Kevin Alicia, the owner of Havana Cafe, said his street dining would cost $35,000 to rebuild it if he has to take it down, and he has no place to store it for 4 months. The thing is that there would only be 8 months a year for outdoor dining in the warm weather, and after Thanksgiving through April 1st, they would have to be off the streets, these outdoor dining sheds, or these outdoor dining. They're no longer being called sheds, seating. Now, as far as the cost of the outdoor dining, costs would range from $5 to $31 a square foot, depending on where the location is. Now, on a side note, while city council members from all over the city attended, not one Bronx city council member was in attendance. Only Bronx State Senator Jamal Bailey and Assemblyman John Sicaro Jr. attended the event. In the November city council race in the 13th council district, which includes Spencer Estates, Strouds Neck, Morris Park, Van Ness, and other communities in the 80th and the 82nd Assembly District, incumbent Marjorie Velazquez will be facing Christy Maramato, who has a community-oriented campaign, rather than Velazquez's, who appears to be in the pockets of developers and Rebbe, and is rumored to be this is important because it's rumored that the Vote for Just Home proposal to house current incarcerated people from Rikers Island, the infirmary at Jacoby Hospital, building number 2, formerly known as 1900 Seminole, the vote is rumored to take place after the November election. Now, here's an interesting note that comes from the district attorney's office. All right, this just came in yesterday, that a Rikers Island inmate was indicted for attempted murder for stabbing a mental health clinic person. The defendant was being held at Rikers Island for a deadly subway stabbing, and District Attorney Clark announced that the inmate has been indicted for attempted murder and other charges for stabbing a mental health clinician with a makeshift dagger. The district attorney said the victim was interviewing detainees in the mental observation unit where he was allegedly stabbed by the defendant with a sharpened piece of metal. The healthcare provider fought for his life, and corrections officers came to his aid. Now, is this the type of person that they want to put into just home and leave them able to walk in the street? But I don't know what the plan is. They're not telling the community anything. Just that they're going to house 50 people from the Rikers Island Infirmary at Jacoby Hospital. They will be free to roam around. There will be only a security guard at the desk, run by the Fortune Society, and they are not telling the community what type of people, what crimes they have committed. Who knows what will be put in there. These are some quick notes that the New York City new Office of Conversion Accelerator Program will help the city reach Mayor Adams' goal of turning 20,000 empty offices into new apartments over the next decade by streamlining what critics have called a cumbersome bureaucratic process down to 6 months. That's converting empty office buildings into apartment buildings, but that has to get state approval first. The Adams administration is considering housing migrants in prefab housing and shipping containers using Fort Dix in New Jersey, the Citi Field parking lot, I guess since the Mets aren't going to make the playoffs of the World Series, and renting out several defunct hospitals and psychiatric facilities upstate and on Long Island, according to a source with direct knowledge of the proposals. This tidbit came in. Lawyers for Donald Trump said yesterday it would take them years to prepare to defend the former president against allegations that is criminally conspired to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential elections, and are asking the judge to hold his trial in April of 2026. There is a new hurricane on the West Coast. It's called Hurricane Hillary. She grew rapidly to Category 4 strength off Mexico's Pacific coast and could bring heavy rain to the southwest U.S. by the weekend. Andrew Cuomo has issued a subpoena to former state senator Alessandra Biaggi earlier this week that seeks her testimony and communications in connection with a 2021 state attorney general's investigation that led to former Governor Cuomo's resignation from office. Former state senator Biaggi once worked in the governor's office before running for state senate and winning. Mortgage rates have jumped to a 21-year high this week, climbing back above 7% and making it even harder for buyers to afford new homes in an already difficult market. And my last item that I will close on concerns Maui. It appears that there was a problem that the sirens didn't go off, but Maui's embattled emergency management director had a pattern of downplaying the importance of the island's outdoor emergency system in the years before the month's devastating fire that destroyed Lahaina and killed more than 100 people. It has been said if the sirens went off, people would have run to higher ground thinking a tsunami was coming, because that's what those sirens were set for, a tsunami. And while let me just finish with one more thing. There are back-to-school giveaways this weekend, and this will be my last item from Friday, today at 12 to 4 p.m. in Co-op City at 200 Baychester Avenue is a back-to-school giveaway. Tomorrow there are two of them. It is Family Day at 635 Castle Hill Avenue from 12 to 4 p.m. And at 12 to 3 p.m. Soundview at 1704 Seward Avenue. And then Sunday, it is 12 p.m. until supplies last at the Pelham Parkway Neighborhood Association at 2134 Barnes Avenue, offer lighting with assistance from Assemblyman John Sicaro Jr. And I am going to close on that. So I see I've run over a little, and I hope you continue to watch and enjoyed this program today.
Undoubtedly, Africa is the best tourism destination on Earth. The continent is blessed with the most conducive atmosphere. To feel and enjoy these blessings, join the most productive one-week tour of the continent organized by Daylight Africa every September 2nd to September 9th to see beyond the fallacies about Africa on the mainstream media. Contact us at daylightafrica@gmail.com or call 718-822-5